Welcome to Greek 101. In this first lesson, we will get into the Greek alphabet. And just like in every language, understanding the alphabet is key. And as we deal with the biblical Greek, we will study the alphabet, and I want to say this up front. We will focus a lot more on the Koine Greek, the Greek that was used, the common Greek that was used in the first century, in and during the time of Christ. And this is very important because the New Testament was written in Greek. And so, as Greek scholars, we know that in the first century, the in the first century, the New Testament was written in Greek. And so that becomes very important for us in understanding because it was written in Greek. That is right, Matthew, right, all the way to the book of Revelation. All of these 27 books written in Greek. And so, as Bible scholars, to be able to understand the New Testament in its context, in its according to its culture, in historical setting and background, in all of those, understanding it and being able to read it in the original language becomes very important. And so Greek has so many other letters that are in a way similar to the English alphabetical letters. However, English alphabet has, for example, 26 letters and Greek has only 24. So already that means there are two that are missing according to the English alphabet. And as we will look at it closely, we'll also realize and recognize and discover that there are other letters that are actually repeated and it's not the same in the English. And so like I said, in every language, understanding the alphabet becomes very important. And so we will get into the alphabet of the Greek language. Right? Now, in these letters, the way we're going to study the alphabetical letters is going to be number one, we'll have how that letter is called. In a way, it has a name, but the focus will be in the uppercase, what we'll call the capital letters, and then the lowercase, what we call the small letters, and then the English equivalent. How does that letter appear in the English letter? And at least we will also just have mentioned its pronunciation, how the word would appear in the, at least as far as the sound, the phoneme of it. And so the very first letter in the Greek alphabet, we call it alpha. Now, alpha is in the uppercase written just like the English letter. Please pardon my, I'd already should have written the place for the name before the uppercase, but bear with it. So the uppercase is written just like the uppercase for the English letter. If we think of the letter A in the English alphabet, it's exactly like that. And then the lowercase is very close to the English small letter A, but it's written like this. That is the lowercase, the small letter for the first letter of the Greek alphabet. And this is equivalent to the English letter, that, what we call the English letter A. And so think of, if you're thinking of the word, the pronunciation like father, that letter sound of father, right? And so the second letter of the alphabet, so you notice that the first letter of the alphabet is called alpha, and this is how it's written in the uppercase, just like the English letter. Notice that. And the lowercase is also very close to the English small letter A, Right? That is alpha. So you remember, you think of when Jesus said, I'm the alpha and the omega. Those are Greek letters. Alpha is the first letter of the Greek alphabet, and omega is the last letter of the Greek alphabet. So that meaning everything else in between. So if you remove the alphabet, you don't have letters, you don't have creation, you don't have existence, you don't have words, you have nothing without it. And in a way, that is what Jesus was saying. He's the first and the last. Without him, there's nothing. So anyway, moving forward, alpha is the first letter. The second letter of the Greek alphabet is beta. And beta, the uppercase letter or capital letter for beta, is just like the English B. And the lowercase is very similar. So notice the way the lowercase is very similar, but just the difference is in this bend, and the bottom part is going to be protruding. And so look at how I'm writing it. There's a curve after right there. So you notice very similar. Notice how the beta is very similar to the uppercase, but the difference is this one has a tail and the uppercase does not have a tail. And that is equivalent to the English letter B, as we would say, like the word ball, right? That's the second letter of the alphabet. So far we have two letters, alpha, you notice how it's written, and beta, that's the second letter. And let's get into the third letter of the alphabet, and that is gamma. Gamma. Gamma is the third letter of the alphabet. Now, for those of you who have done science courses, science subjects, you are already familiar with some of these letters and the symbols. And as we go along with the alphabet, you're going to actually realize and discover that a lot of the scientific symbols and mathematical equations uses and employs the Greek alphabet. So the third letter is gamma. Now, this is for the first time the letter that is very different from the English alphabet. Now, just so you know, Greek is older than the English alphabet, at least as far as the timing of the development of the language, right? So think of, for the uppercase, for the capital letter, for gamma, think of writing a 7, but that is upside down. Or better yet, think of writing an F. So if you were writing an F, right, you would just add that, right, for an F. So think of the first curve without this, okay? So think of the first just that without that. Now that is how gamma is written. So it is, of course, you begin with the top part and then you go down. That is gamma, just like that. Like you were wanted to draw a square shape, and you do the first up corner and the left side corner, and you don't do the right corner and the base. That is what gamma is. That's what it looks like in the uppercase. Now the lowercase, the small letter for gamma, is when you look at it in the appearance, you're actually going to think that it is the English letter Y, but it is not. So you're going to find something that is like this. That in the Greek alphabet is not a Y. It is a gamma, which is equivalent to the English letter G. So what looks like a Y here, so this that is looking like a Y, this one, is actually not a Y. It is a gamma, which is equivalent to the English letter G. And you've noticed so far, we have these three letters. You notice the alpha, the uppercase letter, just like the uppercase letter for A, and the lowercase slightly different, but very similar to the lowercase letter A for the English letters. And then you notice the beta which is the second letter of the alphabet, you notice that the uppercase capital and the lowercase capital, very similar. The difference is in the curve right here. You see that? And the protruding tail that goes beyond that the uppercase letter does not have and is equivalent to the English B. And you've seen so far gamma. That is the third letter of the alphabet. The uppercase written like you are writing a letter F just without this bar that you'd add here, or like you were drawing a triangular shape just without this shape, the right corner and the bottom corner. So far, good, I hope. And I want you to pause and at least take time and practice. Want to give at least two more letters and then we're going to pause so you have time to think of this and meditate on it and be able to practice a little bit before we continue to our next letter. So the fourth letter of the Greek alphabet is delta. Remember Delta Force? Chuck Norris? But delta. So delta, the way delta is written, the uppercase, the capital letter delta, think of you drawing a smaller triangle. A smaller triangle. Just like that. That is delta. A smaller triangle is delta. So you notice also that so far, gamma and delta are the ones that are looking very different from its English equivalent. The lowercase, the smaller letter for delta is also very different. So I want to first show you how to write it. Think of writing the English letter S. Okay, so this is very close to how the English letter S is, but then instead of stopping it like that, then you complete this curve right there. You notice? Think of writing like you're writing an S and then you complete the curve. Think of like an S and then you complete the curve. That is how you write the uppercase, the lowercase, sorry, the small letter for delta. And so, like you're writing an S and then you complete the curve. The only difference in it is that the upper part, this part for the S, is not complete. It kind of starts like halfway in the middle and then something like that. So that is how you write delta. So you notice the only difference is in the fact that this part does not completely go to the same length of the letter. You can pause and practice writing that right now. So we're starting there and doing our letter. That is delta. Now that delta is equivalent to our English letter D. So this is our fourth letter. So again, just a quick recap. We've said so far there are four letters in the Greek alphabet that we've covered. Alpha, and you notice how alpha is. So far you notice alpha, how it's written, and it does uppercase, and you notice the lowercase. And we've covered the beta. You notice that the uppercase and the lowercase very similar, with the difference in the curve and the tail that protrudes. And we've seen the gamma is the one that is completely different, but you notice that what looks like a Y lowercase is actually not a Y, it's a gamma. It's equivalent to the English G. And the delta, uppercase is like a small triangle. The lowercase is like a S, but with a completed circle at the back of it. All right. So far, these are the four letters that we have covered. So I want to give us our last one, and then we will call it a lesson. So our fifth letter of the alphabet is epsilon. 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 Now, epsilon is very easy because the uppercase, the capital letter for epsilon, is just like the English letter E, and its lowercase very similar to how the uppercase is. You notice the uppercase that is strong, sharp corners. The lowercase, think of writing like a C and then giving it still like an E, but without the shape, like without the sharp corners. If you were think of curving this corner and curving this corner, that would give you the uppercase, I mean the lowercase, the small letter E, the way we have it here. You notice that? So that is epsilon, and that is equivalent to the English letter E. Now we are going to cover and see a different letter that is also equivalent to the English E, but that is for another lesson. So for now, please take time and practice these 5 letters. First is alpha. Now think of it as you read this, remember its name, but above all, remember how it's written, how the letters are written, and how it's pronounced, because it's going to be very important as we continue along. So alpha is the first letter, beta is the second letter, gamma is the third letter, delta is the fourth letter, and epsilon is the fifth letter. So we've said for your assignment is at least read the letters, all right, but also practice. Now in the practice 2 things. One, pronunciation. Practice how to pronounce, and 2, practice how to write, so that by the time you come to the next lesson, to the second one, where we'll cover the remaining, at least the next 5 letters of the alphabet, you will already have mastered the first letters. So again, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. That is the lesson for today. Again, I remain Jacob Kasule, and see you in our next lesson.